Hey guys, good evening. I hope I'm pretty much audible. Good evening to one and all present in our chat today. So just let me know, guys, if I'm audible in the chat. I'm trying to fix up my internet. I think there was some issues earlier. So just let me know if I'm audible, guys. Okay, great. So looks like I am audible. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome in our today's discussion. So I welcome you all again in our playlist, which is data analysis in 3 weeks. Hi Mahesh, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Hello Hellfire, good evening. Thank you so much for confirming. Great. So let's get started, guys. So pretty much we are into our playlist, which is data analysis in 3 weeks, and we have been discussing some quite good topics in that playlist. We discussed about data types, lists, tuples, dictionaries, functions, lambda functions, and then we started things yesterday. Day before yesterday on data types, right? Great. So hey Vasant, hey Akash, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Great. So you remember, guys, so yesterday we were talking about text, CSVs, Excel. We started with Docx. Docx also we saw a couple of challenges. So I told you that we'll be taking a few more examples. I'll show you that. And then we'll see something in PDF as well. Okay. So again, guys, see, ultimately think from a broader perspective. Okay. So what are these data types? So ultimately what we are trying to do here is we're trying to pull up the information and load into the Python memory and then ultimately perform the analysis. So end goal is still the analysis, okay? Ultimately, once the data is there in your Python, right, in the Python memory, I have to perform the analysis on top of that, right? So right now we're still on the very first stage, okay? So there could be multiple data types, like, file could be in different formats. So we just talked about 5 data types. There could be still more data types, right? So XML is a very standard raw data type which is available. Even from HTML, like web scraping, we still pull out the data from that, right? So many different data types. So don't think that these are the only different 5 types we have to work with. So, but again, the end objective is we have to get the data from whatsoever source into our whatever interpreter whatever the kind of base tool you're working with. So eventually that's going to be your base, right? But end objective is to do the data analysis, right? So that's what we are intended to do here, correct? So that's our end objective. Cool. So that's what we want to do here. In the data set, we discussed about CSVs, text, Excel, Docx, but today we'll be focusing more on Docx and PDF. But I got an offline request that somebody was having trouble in Excel, so I'll after finishing Docx and PDF, I'll just do a quick recap of Excel also. Okay, but we'll focus on Docx and PDF today. Cool, great. So that's gonna be our agenda. But before starting, as always, quick introduction about myself. My name is Arpit Jain, and I'm a lead data scientist myself. I have been in industry for almost 9 years into multiple domains. As I said, finance, automobile, manufacturing, cloud, telecommunication. So I've been into multiple fields, multiple domains, and working as a data guy. So you can definitely put up your questions if you have anything regarding data science, or any domain related questions, anything, guys. So feel free to ask your queries. I should be able to take them. Okay, so don't worry about that. Also, along with everything else, I'm also a motivational speaker. So I take industry sessions. I talk to students regarding their job, career. So yesterday we were talking, many people were having questions regarding some of their doubts in career. So as always, if anybody is having any concern or anything regarding your career, job, so please do let me know, guys. So we'll take that up. Okay, great. So that's about myself. As always, it's pretty much a live session. So if anybody is having any concerns, do let me know. So I will take those questions, pretty much live, and you can ask your question in the chat. Okay, cool. So let me just quickly pull up the content slide, guys. Just give me a minute. Okay, I'm just pulling up the content slide. Okay, meanwhile, if anybody has any concerns or whatsoever you have discussed so far, please do let me know. Okay, so I'm gonna be explaining the things again. So any concerns regarding anything, guys, so do let me know. Okay, so I'm more than happy to take that. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to pull up the content slide. Cool. So I hope my screen is visible, right? Right. I hope my screen is visible. Okay. So let's first talk about the data. So let's talk about docx file. Okay, I told you, right. So yesterday today I'll be giving you more examples, more complex type of tables in docx. So let me just pull up the docx ones. That should be giving you more clarity. Just give me a minute. Let me pull up that. Right, so okay, cool. Right, so I hope my doc file is visible to you, right? So this is how my doc file looks like. Okay, so I have three different informations here. So this is my three different tables. Okay, so I've added three different tables. Now look at the differences. So I have this table. Okay, so I have 3 rows and 3 columns. Pretty simple. Okay, and here you can see that I have the header column ABC, and then I have the data here, right? Now I have another table. So in this you can see this particular cell where I've written 2. This is a merged cell, right? So for the change 2 and change 2.1, still the version remains 2, right? So that's something you have to see. So again, we have merged cells, right? So there's some complex, different format of tables you can have. So this is again one more different type of table. Now again, you can see this is again one type of table. So I have written some random text here. So for example, this is my table. So I have my so ideally these are two columns and 1 row data, one table, right? But in the column name, so I don't have any column name here for the first cell. There's no column name. It's just like the content, right? And then I have a personal profile kind of a thing. So I have some random text here, right? So it's some random text, right? So now the thing is, we have to understand if we're gonna pull up this exact content into my Python library, right? So Python memory. So how it is going to be processed. So clear? So these are my 3 different tables. So now my objective is to read all of these 3 tables individually, right? So all of these 3 tables has to be read individually, and it has to be converted so that it can be processed eventually for my purpose, right? So that's the objective. Cool. So how we can do that? So now let's look at the code. Let me show you the code. Let me come back to the code. Cool. So this is how my code looks like, where I have my information for individual files. So as I said, for the docx file, the library name is Python docx. Okay, so Python -docx. So this is what you have to download, and you have to be prepared with this. So this has to be there in your system. So if you don't have this particular library installed in your system, you can still download it. It's a one-time job. So how you can do that? Pip install. So you can use the pip installer. So pip install Python docx. It's going to download the latest version of it. Okay. Meanwhile, I have a question. Let me take that as well. So the question says, sir, how can I switch from development to machine learning profile with 0 industry experience? I mean, I have experience in development, but not in machine learning. Okay, so see here, again, it's a very good question actually. So it depends on how many years of experience you have. But again, see, to make a switch, if you have like multiple years of experience, then you have to showcase the business skills also. But if you're still a fresher with having 2, 3, 4 years of experience, so that's not too much still. So you can definitely, you can still need not to worry about what you've done in the past. So still, decent enough experience. So to move into machine learning, eventually it's a data science field. So first you have to upgrade yourself. Okay, so upgrade in terms of skills, stats, ML, Python, SQL. I've been telling this always, right? So focus on these skills first. And now maybe, you have to ultimately showcase, see, if you go for an interview eventually, right? So you have to showcase some kind of project experience, some work which you have to show, right? So try to take some projects. So you can go to Kaggle, or there are some open projects also available. The data set problem statements are all there. Try to solve those problems if you've done some structured learning in terms of machine learning, right? So try to do some projects and try to add those projects in your resume. So that's one of the way in which you will be kind of showcasing your work, one way to highlight your work. So that's one really straightforward way which you can do that. Again, eventually, think about this. So if you don't have a work experience, you don't have it. You cannot do anything about it, right? So you cannot have it anyway. So the only way which you can do is by doing some own project from you. I mean, industry experience आपको तब तक नहीं होगा जब तक आप job नहीं करोगे, right? So you won't get the experience till the time you get a job, and you cannot have a job anyway. So don't worry about it, right? So at least you don't have a job right now, right? So what you can show right now is just the same thing from your own project. That's it. You don't have anything else apart from it. So be confident of what are you doing in terms of your own projects. That's what you can show, right? Okay, because the recruiters will always trouble you with those things, like, you know, you don't have an experience, but still down the line it's not like you cannot get selected. It's just like how you talk, how you portray yourself. So the projects which you will be doing, that should be of decent quality, right? And you should be knowing what are you doing. So that's gonna help. Okay. Okay, so I have Aman one question here. Aman, from as a fresher, what type of projects we have to done for starting career in data science field? Okay, so there are different sections in data science, right? So regression, classification, a lot of things, and then you have clustering, deep learning side, also text, image processing. So see, these are different sections of data science. So it's always advisable that if you can showcase multiple projects from different fields, so try to have that variety. So it's not like only one problem statement is good and other is bad, right? So every company is working on some or the other problem statements. So it depends on the company totally eventually. But again, from your side, what you can do is you can try to cover as many problem statements as you can, right? So Vasant has a question: How can I open a text file containing paragraph data? Simple, you know, what's the problem in that? So you can do read lines. So read lines, you can read the lines directly there. So what's the problem? So I mean, once you have read the lines, even in the read table also is fine. What the problem is that? So once you have read the data, read lines is, I think it would be better in this case. So once you do read lines, you're gonna finally reading the data from each of the paragraph, and you can always filter out once the data is read in your memory, then you know from what line to what line it's gonna be your one paragraph. So you can always specify that. So I mean, little bit of fine-tuned code, but again, it can be still be done on read lines itself. Okay guys, so coming back, so quickly let me show it to you what I meant. Okay, so now in this Docx library, okay, so from Docx I'm going to import the function document. Okay, so this document is the function which is eventually working as like pd.read csv in pandas for the read csv file, right? So this is almost the similar function. I mean, not the same, but again, yeah. So it's doing the same job. It is loading up the docx file for me. So this document function, okay. So now this document function, in the parentheses, I'm defining the docx file, the name of my file, okay. Now in this, for para in document paragraph, so now in this document, okay, so this document contains what? So this document can contain text in form of, so the plain simple text are defined in form of paragraphs here, okay. So that's one way it is written. And the second is my tables. So tables are given as tables as a function. So these are, once you by default read these document files, right? So it's going to be loaded as the same thing. Okay, that's how it can be done here. So cool. So here paragraphs and tables, two things you have to remember for now: text and tables. So now here what I'm trying to do is, so if I do, so document will be, I'm loading this document part here, right? So document, so just main, this is doc, so to make it more clear. So this doc. So now from this doc will be having what? It will be having paragraphs, as I said, and it will be having tables, right? So now for the paragraphs, so if I have to print out what all text are part of my paragraph, that's gonna be my actual plain simple text, okay? And how we can get the text is like para.text. Like the text is my actual function which is gonna print the textual content present in my paragraphs. And paragraph is nothing but the lines where my contents are present. It will not be having the tables. Except the tables, all the content will be printed here. Okay, plain simple. If you run it like this, it's very simple actually. What happened? Okay, so this is gonna be doc. So, right. So did you notice? So although I had 3 different tables as well in my docx file, but it did not print that because I only used the paragraphs, right? For all the paragraphs, print all the text. That's what I said in this code, right? And now for this part, I am having all of my content being printed here. So all of my individual text are getting printed here like this. Okay. So that's pretty much cool. Now what to do after this, right? So now, but again, we are not done here. So we also want to have the tables, right? So how to access the tables? So tables are generally accessed from the Docx file using the function tables. Okay. So now here my doc is, so I have already loaded this Docx file, right? And how and where it is loaded in the variable doc. Okay. So now under this doc, I have the function both the paragraph, right? So as I told you, we have the function called as paragraph, and we have also function called as tables. Okay. So if I do it like tables, right? Did you notice? So I have 3 different table elements here. Just by doing tables like this, I have the, oh sorry, my bad. It's a list element, right? So I have 3 different table elements here, right? So now I could see that there are 3 different tables. Now from the table element, the objective is to read the content also, right? So how can I read the content? That is something which is very important. So we have a question from Vasant. He says, if we have paragraph in between and after the table also print at a time. Yes, no problem in that. So even if we have a table in between, it'll still work. So by doing the paragraph, it will not identify the table element. It will just keep on printing the text of, I mean, even after the table, if you have some text, it will get printed like that. That should not be a problem. Okay, great. So coming back. So now here, I could see that I have 3 different tables, okay? Or even, so there are some indexes of my tables. This is my first table, this is my second table, and this is my third table. And also we saw in the Docx file that there are 3 tables. So there's an order of that table. So first table occurred first. So I mean, generally we can see that this is my first table, then my second table, then my third table. There's an indexing also involved in that, right? So now what we're trying to do is, from each of these tables, I'm trying to extract my my rows and my columns. Got it? So I'm trying to extract my rows and my columns. Okay, we have a question from Mahesh. He says, why you remove tables function? Okay, very good question. Very well identified. Okay, so tables is actually not a function. Okay, my bad. So okay, tables here. Table is not a function of doc. Table is an object of doc. Okay, what is the difference? So table is a list type object. So you can see this. So it is not a function, it is an attribute of doc, it is an object of doc, it's not a function of doc. There's a difference. If it is a function, you would have written the parenthesis, or if it is an attribute like a more kind of object, it's going to be simple plain the attribute. Okay, so parentheses are for the functions, so it's not a function of my doc. Okay, it's an attribute, it's a object of my doc element. Cool, coming back. So for each of my table, my objective is to identify the rows and the columns, right? So that is what I want to extract. So simple. So the code is pretty simple here again. So what I'm doing is, so table has 2 things. So table.rows and table.columns. It has the attribute. So now table, so look at this. Even here I'm not writing parentheses, right? Because it's an attribute of my table. It's an object of my table, right? So table.rows. So and then we have table.columns, right? So now I'm doing length of table.rows and length of table.columns. That means that how many number of rows and how many number of columns are there, right? And then I have another attribute called it table.cell. So table.cell means exact that cell where I have the row and the column matching. So the index of my row and cell will be row and column will be matched under my table.cell. That's what we do. Okay. So now here, if we do it like this, like for index table in enumerate document.table. So what I'm trying to do here is, I'm trying to print each of my tables. So look at this. I'm printing table and the index. So for every table, so there'll be 3 tables. So this entire thing, this part will be repeated for all of my tables, right? So for all of my tables, I'm extracting the row and the columns. If I run it like this, what just happened? Give me a minute. I think I by mistake this. Document is not defined, so it's a doc element. So just give me a minute. So it's gonna be doc, and then I think this should be fine, right? So now can you see this? Now here, I had 3 different tables, right? So now you can see this. So table 0. So I'm also printing the index here, right? So table and the index. So I have table 0. This is my table 0. Then I have table 1, which is pretty much here. And then I have table 2, right? So which is pretty much here. You got it? Now, one thing which you have to notice. So by default, did you notice? It just accepted where the cells were merged. it also accepted the version was 2 at the same place. So 2 was common for both the rows, right? So the docx file, once we read this, it was able to identify this. I meant the same thing when I read it, when I wrote there as a merged cell, right? This is what I meant. So this logic was able to identify the values of my 3 different rows. Okay, cool. I was able to identify this. Similarly, in the table 2, if you would have noticed, in the header column, I did not have anything for my first column name. I did not have anything in my first column name, right? I only had the column name content, and then I have the value called as personal profile in this first header, and this entire thing as my second value. The value for my column content, right? This is what I had there. Cool. So pretty much it. So we are able to print this data, but the important thing to understand here is I'm just printing this data, right? I have to somehow store this also, right? So if I have to ultimately the objective is to get this data and process it, right? It is not like I have to just read it. Ultimately, the end objective is I have to do the data analysis on top of it, right? So how I'm supposed to do that? That is something which is very important, right? So ultimately, I have to get this data in some or the other way, I have to store it in some or the other data type, right? So how we can do that? We can store this information maybe in a list. We can do it in a dictionary. We can also store this into a pandas data frame. We can still do that. Even if we make a list can be converted into a pandas data frame. So anything is fine. So we'll stick with the 2 core basic data type, which is list and dictionary. So now what we'll try to do is the same table, right? The same table will try to save this information in a list or a dictionary of information. And then we will look forward that how we can process this information. So once we have the data in a list or a dictionary, then we can obviously do the list comprehension on top of that, or dictionary methods on top of that, we can call it, right? So for the manipulation purpose. Now, for example, now just look at this information. So I've just written another code for you. I'll also explain this code, okay? So now here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to save converting the table elements into my list so that I can further use it for my data analysis purpose. Cool, simple. What I've done here is I'll try to explain the code very briefly, okay? So now what I've done is I've just created an empty list in the beginning, okay? So just an empty list. Here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find out, like whatever content is there, I'll be appending this content on this list, because we have seen how to append, right? We know what is an append. We have seen the method. So now for each of my loop element, I'll be just keep on appending the data. So one by one, it's like a stack of my information, right? Simple. I'll just kind of pause this for now and I'll print. So I'll just do a print here. Print, say index, and then also say table, for example, okay? It's not document, it's doc. Okay. So now you notice, so I have 3 tables, so index and table. So I have 3 indexes, 0, 1, and 2, right? And I have 3 tables elements. So 3 table elements are getting printed. It's like a table element for me, right? Now on top of this, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find out the content. So how simple is that? Suppose if I have to do it for all the tables or maybe one table, I can do it anyway. I can still run a loop for the entire table. I can keep on appending it, still fine. But suppose I'm trying to do it for one single table. Suppose say table number 0, for example, okay? So index number 0. I can simply write one condition here, right? So if index is equal to 0, that means that now I'm only focusing on my table number first table, right? Now, whatever logic I'll be writing, it'll be only valid for my table number first table, right? Likewise, I can just do it for all the tables. It's also still fine. I can write in the loop, but again, I'm trying to show it to you how we can still access the data, right? So now I'm inside my first table, right? So from this first table, what are you supposed to extract? My cells information, right? Cell, what is the cell? Cell is a junction of rows and columns, right? That is what you have to do. And how many times you have to run it? It'll be valid for the number of cells we have, right? It'll be valid for the number of rows we have. That many times you have to run this loop, right? So simple first loop will come for row, for the row in the number of rows. So row in my table dot rows. So table dot rows kya hai? So now let's print here. Let's try to see. Print table dot rows. Let's try to see that. What is it? Okay. So now here it is an iterable object table dot rows. You got it? So now again, it's not a table object anymore. It's like a table rows element. So which is telling me the actual table rows which I have, right? So now within this table rows, I'm trying to extract my every cell, right? So for each of these rows, get me the cell value for every cell. So for cell in row dot cells. So cells is again my another attribute I have for this. Now I have this one cell now. Now on this cell, I want the text. I want whatever content is there. So text is still applicable in the paragraph. We saw that, right? So we have the text here also, para.text. So text is actually giving me the content, the actual content. Now once I'm within that cell, now this cell value will have a content, right? So I can just call the content by using what? Cell.text, right? Now this text, I can definitely append it in this particular list I have. I can do that. It's plain simple, right? List.append, and then I can do cell.text. Cool. Simple code. There's nothing fancy in this. Now if I just print list underscore, the table which I have, can you see this? Now I have this particular information within my list, right? Yes, I can definitely understand this. This is not a kind of a formulated thing which you want, but still I have the content which I wanted, right? Now I can definitely perform that. I can further fine tune this. Maybe I can create a list of lists. So this will be my header. This will be my first element. This will be my second. I can do whatever I want on top of this, but at least I have the content in form of a mutable format, right? I have it. You got it? So one easier way is a very simple way to write the code. I hope I'm able to make it sense, right? Likewise for all the tables, for example, suppose table 2, right? So can you see this? I have this table 2 content here. So first cell will be blank. Second cell will be my header name, quad content, and then I'll be having my personal profile, and then this entire thing on top of my actual fourth cell value, right? Now, for example, suppose I have got this. Now I want to access the content which is there and another personal profile. So how can I access this? List underscore simple list comprehension 3. If I write it like this, I'll get the data here, which is actually a text file, right? It's actually a text. So if you see the type of this is actually a string file, right? Now it's plain simple. Now you can perform anything. So did you notice it also has some strange characters here? So did you notice it has /n characters, and also this is a question mark, and this question mark should be having a space character. So /n is giving me that. So I can perform anything which I want on top of this. I can extract the question. I can split the data. So for example, if I perform a split here, so dot split on top of my question mark. So suppose if question mark is my thing, right? So question mark based on I want to split the data. So did you notice I get the question here? This is my first question, and this is the answer for it, right? Got it? And then I'll be having the another question. This should be somewhere, I think here. I'm not able to find it. There were 2 questions, so there should be a split. So I think let me just look at how many length. What is the length of this? Right. So I have 3. So that will be my values. I don't have a. Cool. So I can perform anything what I want on top of this, guys. You got it? So ultimate objective is that you have to get the data, which is, in the Docx file, you cannot perform anything on a Docx file, right? So you have to ultimately load it and kind of perform the action on top of that. So the objective is to read it, right? So this is the one way in which you can read it in form of a list, okay? I want to show you something else. So let's try to do it same thing in dictionary also. I can convert this in a more readable format in terms of dictionaries. I can still do this in terms of dictionaries. So I've written the code in dictionary also. So let me show that to you. So here again, I'm doing the same thing, okay? So again, it's going to be doc. So I have tables. I've created a tables element. So tables is nothing but doc.tables. I've identified the tables from here, right? Now I'm doing the same thing. So for index and table in document.table. So I'm trying to identify the index and table in document.tables. I'm trying to identify that. And I'm saying that if index is equal to 2, that means that I'm trying to specify exactly which table I want to see, right? So this is what my objective is, okay? I'm initializing a dictionary again, initializing a list, for example, now data, okay? And I'm also initializing a keys. So keys I'm initializing for now is none. So there's a blank key which I'm creating, okay? Now, on top of this, for each of my tables, right? So table will have what? The rows element. So for all of my rows element, I'm also specifying the enumerate. That means that I'm also getting the index. So I is my index here, right? So for all of my index of my row elements, I'm trying to find the text. And what is that text? That cell dot text for each of my cell row dot cells. You got it? So for all of my cells, I'm trying to get the text of it. Okay. So my text element is getting sorted here. Okay. So I'm getting my text plain simple as that here. Okay. Now, also I have the text now, but also I have to get the keys for that, right? And what is that keys? So ultimately keys is nothing but my column names. Keys is what? My column names, right? So key is nothing but my column name here. So column name is what? My first row. First row is my column, right? So here I means the index of my rows. So first row index will be what? 0, right? So I'm saying that if my I is equal to 0 or nothing, but I'm saying that if it is my first row, okay? This is my first row. If it is the first row, that means it's a column, right? So now what I'm doing is I'm saying that make this as my keys. You got it? So I'm just specifying that that's going to be my keys. Okay. And now what I'm saying is just append this in form of a dictionary. So I'm saying dictionaries and zip it for keys and text. Okay. Plain simple as that. Now if I run it, doc, it should be doc. Okay. So now can you see this? So now I'll do it for maybe first or second, first table first, so it'll be easier for you to understand. So now can you see this? So it's pretty neat, right? It's very neat. So can you see this? So I have, so version is 1, so change is change 1, and then I have page is 1, approved by admin, and then I have date this. Okay, likewise version is 2. This is my one element. This is my one complete element or one row, founding dictionary, where the keys are my column name, values are my the actual content, the text of my data, right? And then I have another second row here, then I have third row here, and all in dictionary format. It's even simpler to work on top of this, right? Making sense, guys? Any questions in this? Any questions in this? Now you can obviously work on this list and dictionary format, right? So it's always very easier to work on list and dictionaries, correct? We have worked on the comprehension part as well, right? Any questions, guys, or is it going over the board? Guys, I need a yes or no in the chat. I really want to know this. So if you're not able to understand this, let me know. This is again a very interesting and very good topic, guys. Okay, so I don't think you will find this content very easily on the internet. So do let me know if you're able to understand this part. Okay, so one more time, Mahesh is saying for this one. Okay, so here again, the end objective is like from the docx file, we have to get the data and we have to store it in somewhere. Like if we can get the data, read the data, and ultimately we have to perform the analysis, right? So we have to store the data somewhere in the memory, right? So here what we have done is we are storing in two ways. We are using the plain simple core data types, which is my list and dictionaries. Okay, so for my list here, so this was for my list. Where did it go, man? Yeah, so this is for my list. The list is even simpler to implement. It's very simple, right? So what I'm doing is, so I have three different things. Okay, so look, try to understand a table structure in document. Okay, so we have rows, horizontal things, the rows, and then I have columns, vertical things, right? And the intersection of each rows and columns is my cell, one cell, then two cell, third cell, right? So your content, which is the actual value, is present inside my cell, right? You got it? So your actual content is within the cell, right? So the objective is to, if you are able to reach out to a cell, if you are able to locate a cell, then you can find out the text from that, right? Okay. So now here what we are trying to do is ultimately we are locating the cells. Okay. So now for that, here in the list, what we did, loop over the rows, all the rows, and then for each cell in the row. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I have say 4 columns, so 4 cells in the rows. Okay. Then I have second row, 4 cells in the second row. Likewise. So this is what it is doing. Okay. So for each of my cell, copy the text and append it over the list. So this is what I'm doing. Okay. So I have suppose 2 rows and 1 column data. Sorry, 2 columns and 1 row data. So ultimately I'll be having what? 2 cross 2 ka matrix, right? So 2 cross 2 means 4 elements would be there in my list. 2 headers, 2 data. So here you can see 2 headers. This is my 2 headers, and then I have my 2 data here. Got it? So other way we did was doing a dictionary. Okay. So dictionary mein kya hai? So similarly, again, I'm reaching to my cells. So I'm ultimately getting to my cells in some or the other way. So again, iterating it over my rows element and getting my cells. Now in the cells, what I'm trying to do is I'm making the first row. So first row kya hai? First row is my header, right? So that is my first row. So here I'm saying that if I is equal to 0, which is nothing but my index of my rows. So if my row index is 0, that means that it's a header. Then in that sense, just take the first row as my keys completely. So whatever element would be there it'll be treated as keys. Okay, keys. So I mean dictionary we have key in the value, right? So this will be key. For the value, use the text which we have extracted. And what is my text? Again the same thing. So the text for each of my cells. Got it? That's gonna be my text. Again, to make it into a dictionary element, we just zipped it in on keys and text. Okay. So this is gonna be my dictionary element, and eventually all of this dictionary element got appended into my data, which is a list. So I'll be getting list of dictionaries. So so this list will be having, suppose if I have 3 rows, so I'll be having 3 different list dictionary elements here, right? This is what it has. Got it? Make sense, guys? Any questions? Any further questions? Just a quick thumbs up if you're able to understand, guys. How to access second row? I mean, what's the problem in that? So you mean here? Okay. So if you want to access the second row, it'll be like if I is equal to second row means 0, 1, second row, right? So it'll be 1, right? So it'll be like this. So this is how I'll be accessing this. Cool. Pretty much it. So this will be valid for my second row only. But this code won't run like this because again I'm doing an if I is equal to 0, right? So I might have to pull this up and write it above this, right? So I will write it above this, but again I can still I mean this is how I'll be accessing. So I have to, this I will be my index, right? So this is how I'll be accessing my rows element here. So index will be my row identifier. Cool. Great. Any other questions, guys? This is an interesting topic, and this is one of the very good thing. So advanced topics. So you should be knowing this. Cool. So if that is fine, let me quickly show it to you on PDFs as well. Okay. So here again, so same docx file, guys. Same docx file we have in PDF also. Okay. So don't worry. So I won't be showing you this. It's the same docx file. I've just converted this docx into PDF. Okay. It's the same PDF file. PDF is even simpler. Okay, so PDF is actually even simpler. So here again for the PDF, the library name is PyPDF2. Okay, so the library name is PyPDF2. So that is my library name. If you have not installed this, you can obviously install using pip install PyPDF2. So you can download this. So in this, we're gonna just import the library here, and now how we run on this? So we first have to create the PDF file object. Okay, so we have to first create a PDF file object. How we can do that? Using an open function. So in this open function, PDF frame, and the mode will be read RB here. Now from this, PDF object, we have to read the PDF. So actually now we have created an object for me, a PDF object. Now we have to read the lines of my PDF, right? So how we can read the lines? For that, the function name is PDF file reader, and that is available under my library PyPDF2. Okay, so under PyPDF2, I have PDF file reader function. So once I call this PDF file reader function, I'm gonna be having in this I'll be passing the object name, the PDF object name, which is PDF file obj. Okay, I'll be passing this. So now once I have read this, so once I've read the lines of my file object, I have saved this under a variable called as PDF reader. So this PDF reader will be having the information of my PDF file, the context of my PDF file. Okay. So everything is read here. Now this PDF reader will have some other attributes. For example, number of pages. I'll be seeing how many number of pages the PDF has. Likewise, I can get the page object also. I can extract the text. So extract text is a function which is working similar to in Docx. We have .text, right? So we have extract text here. So extract text will be giving me the actual text in my PDF file. Okay, very simple. It's just like few functions and attributes available under this library, which is giving you everything eventually, right? It's very simple. So once you've run this, now can you see? Now the data is getting loaded. So sample file th is a simple file. This is getting used for sample purpose. But did you notice somehow the formatting is not that good here, right? The formatting is not that great. So now on top of this, I have to eventually do a lot of things because this function, so this extract text somehow is not very strong in eventually getting this data, extracting this data. Okay, yes. So now for this, we have to write our fine-tune code. Eventually we can also work on top of this. But instead of going with this PyPDF2, we have another option called as PDF Plumber. Okay. So PDF Plumber is again a high-end API available to read the content from a PDF file. It's a very good library. So now again, same thing. So if you've not installed PDF Plumber, it's plain simple as that. So I'm gonna just load up everything from PDF Plumber. I'm just gonna show it to you this code. So now here it's one single sentence. Okay. So now what I've done is we're gonna use a with operator here. So in the PDF Plumber itself, I'm gonna open the file and create it as a stamp, right? And then I have loaded the page. So here I can specify the pages. So pages 0, pages 1. So how many number of, I can write in the loop also if I have multiple pages. So for example, the first page, pages 0, right? I can simply call the function, inbuilt function extract text. Extract text is available within my PDF Plumber. Nothing else needed here. If we do it like this, let me show it to you. You can see this. This is very, very strong API. Can you see this? Now you have the content in form of your actual, in the more formatted way, the way you want it. Got it? So you can use PDF Plumber. It's very good. Now again, obviously, so now once we have the content eventually like the way we did in Docx and we store the data in list and dictionaries, we can perform the same action on PDF also. So anyway, the data is extracted, right? So we have the content here. Now we can convert it in howsoever way we want it, right? So whatever way we want, we can convert this data into that format, whatever we want it. Clear, guys? Any questions in PDF or Docx? There are slightly complex data types to handle, complex file types to handle in Python. But again, slightly with a slight bit of, smart coding, you should be able to access them as well without any major trouble. Cool. Any questions, guys? Anything? I hope I'm making sense, guys. Any questions, do let me know in the chat. Why we use tuple? Okay. I think we must have used tuple to create the keys, right? Yeah. Okay. So it's a very good question. Okay. So again, it's a very classic example. I told you, right? So tuples and lists, they are the sequential data types. Again, they have their own usages and benefits. So now here what I want this text to not be mutated. I want the keys to be as it is, right? So once I've extracted the information from my first row, I've just created, because ultimately I have to make it either a list or a tuple, right? Because I'm doing it in the form of a list. So it's a list only for me, right? So instead of passing it as a list, I have just used it as a tuple because I don't want this to be mutated. I just want this to be constant, right? Once done, it should be there. Cool. Great. Any more questions, guys? Okay, just for a heads up, guys. Tomorrow we will not be meeting in the evening. Rather, we'll be having class in the morning, 10 a.m. Okay, so instead of having class at 10 p.m., we'll be having class tomorrow at 10 a.m. Okay, so don't forget, guys. We will be having class tomorrow, but at 10 a.m. And at 10 a.m., we'll be looking forward to the class, and then we'll be starting from data visualization tomorrow. Okay, so that's going to be our agenda for tomorrow. Okay, so guys, don't forget, we'll be meeting at only for tomorrow, but for day after tomorrow we'll be having class at 10 p.m. only, so at our regular time. But only for tomorrow we'll be meeting at 10 a.m. Okay, so instead of 10 p.m. it's going to be morning 10. Okay, so 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And we'll be starting with data visualization tomorrow. So I'll be giving you a brief towards Seaborn and Matplotlib and why data visualization, what are things we can do in visualization. So please guys, stay tuned. I'll be talking about Seaborn and Matplotlib tomorrow. Okay, so that's what we're going to be starting. Okay. Okay, Vasanta, we can do that as well. So today I don't have a question right now, but at least you can try to use the same content which I was showing today. So maybe you can watch the recording after going home, and then try to add more complexity and try to code on your own. But again, I'll try to add some more questions after the end of the class. I'll try to do that. But at least you can still follow the videos, right? And then you have enough content to still practice at home. Great. Great, guys. So with this, pretty much it. Thank you so much. Let's meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. And let's see if we are able to catch up tomorrow at 10 a.m. So let's see that. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day, and see you tomorrow.